long time ago, the old ones say, far to the west, the belly of the earth gave birth to a new people. Of earth and wind we were born. In the midst of clear running water, the master of all breath brought us to life. For both wind and water are signs of the Great Spirit's presence in the land. Sargata Misi, the master of breath, spoke to us in this way. You must go from this place to a homeland far away. To reach it, you must walk the way of the morning sun when it rides the backbone of the earth. As I am in earth and wind, I am also in the sun. Follow it, and I will lead you home. While the sun slept, our people rested. When it awakened, we walked. The old ones say it was for the space of so many suns that no one could remember when the journey had begun. The world was a lonely, spirit-haunted place for such a newborn people, yet without a home. Many moons passed. It was again the green leaf season when we came to a wide water we called the Mississippi. We crossed over through the woodlands of the Chickasaw people. We followed a stream which we called the Caloosahatchee, and at last came to a roaring water which seemed to fall from the sky. It reminded us of our birth on the earth's backbone, and the Great Spirit, who is in wind and water, told us it was good. So we called this country our homeland. We became known as the Muskogee people. Like our neighbors, the Chalaki, the Cherokee, we built towns of adobe houses roofed with river cane. We planted maize in communal fields. Our people took root in the rich soil as the creatures which we hunted in the forests. We conquered other nations and spread a confederacy on the Okmulgee, the Flint, and the Chattahoochee rivers, and beside the Coosa and Tallapoosa to the west. We did not have a name for the whole land. We knew it only with the heartbeats of our crossing. We did not know that others would come to measure it and call it by their own name. In white man's time, it was 1540 when a strange warrior marched into our country. He called himself Hernando de Soto and said he was a child of the sun seeking rich provinces. His holy man placed the Christian cross for the first time on a Muskogee ritual grounds. Then De Soto rode through our villages, taking slaves and food. He laid the land waste, then vanished because he could find no rich cities. It took us many winters to rebuild after the first coming of Stihetki, white man. Slowly the peoples of the East returned from hiding places in the mountains. Again, we rekindled our fireplaces. Again, we prospered. We carved our dugouts from the forest trees. The Muskogee explored strange new lands all along the waterways, and our people even spread eastward to the sea. In course of time, other white men emerged from the sea foam. They called themselves English and named the Muskogee people Creeks because we lived beside waterways. They wished to live beside us in peace. In the white man's year 1670, they built Charlestown, which they called after their king across the water. Soon, three powerful nations surrounded us: France, Spain, England, all seeking to build empires in the land. Finally, our headman, Miko Omashahese, sailed across the sea. He carried a sacred bundle of eagle feathers to the English king as a sign of everlasting peace. Savannahtown was built in 1735 on land given by Miko Omashahese. The English promised no more lands would be taken. We Muskogee believed that only Hishagitamishi, he who created the world, could in truth give or take away the land. We saw the earth as the fertile mother of all life, whose mystery and value passed beyond man's understanding. But the white man thought to own pieces of the earth. Past the treaty limits he came. He settled around our burial grounds. The old ones say also how in time the Englishmen in our country began to call themselves Americans. By and by, a great war was fought against the English king. Muskogee Creeks fought also in this war for ancestral homes and lost. The settlements of the English in our country became a new nation. From the north, where the Iroquois Confederacy was broken, to Georgia, where our headman granted Savannahtown. We sent delegations to Washington, the father of the new country. But many voices cried for removal of Indians from the land. A law in the South made an Indian's word illegal in court against the white man. It was 1811 when Tecumseh of the Shawnee came among us. He made strong talk with us about driving the white man from the land. Many Muskogee Creeks fought with the Shawnee against the Americans and were conquered. In 1832, the Treaty of Casista said this: the Creek tribe of Indians cede to the United States all their lands east of the Mississippi River. The proud nation from the backbone of the earth now began the long trail of tears to a new land west of the Mississippi. In 1836, 20,000 Muskogee Creeks were on the march. Death came with us. On foot, the old and sick in rough carts. By boat down our beloved waterways, with the sun setting in our hearts. When we reached the Mississippi, rotting steamboats waited to carry us to our new home. At last, we arrived at Fort Gibson in the new country. Tired and bewildered, we began to look about us. It was a green land, a rich land flowing with wide, low-banked rivers. There was wild grass tall as a man's head, singing with the wind. Game was plentiful. When we saw the abundance, we began to think again of the goodness of life. The creek was now so far from the white man that he would never be bothered again. We hunted our friend, the buffalo, for food to see us through the winter. Then in the spring, we settled on the banks of the rivers. We built log houses for shelter against the new country's violent seasons. Seed which the government had promised finally arrived. We planted and cultivated. As our corn grew green, we began to heal the terrible memories of our tribe. A treaty was signed with the United States, guaranteeing our lands forever. Only a few years later, the government asked to survey the land. We knew already what surveys meant. The United States now wanted our new homeland. The white man's war of brothers fell like a plague in 1861. We were hemmed in by the southern states of Texas and Arkansas, divided again. Half our people fought with the South. Half were loyal to the North or neutral. None among the Creeks tasted victory. Our homes and fields were destroyed. Wilderness crept over our fireplaces. After the war, we signed treaties ceding half our land away and opening the door to railroads through our other lands. In the wake of the Iron Horse came Texas Longhorn, land speculators, outlaws. This sea of trouble the white man called manifest destiny, frontier expansion. Still we struggled to keep what was ours. Our legislature, with its House of Kings and House of Warriors, met many times. At Intertribal Council, our elected chiefs wrote a constitution for a united Indian state. But it was a lost dream. The tribe was bankrupt. In time, the Muskogee Creek government was dissolved. Under the Dawes Allotment Act, each creek received 160 acres of land and American citizenship. The rest of our communal property, millions of acres, was sold to settlers flooding the territory. In 1907, the state of Oklahoma was admitted to the Union with a constitution based on our envisioned Indian state. Our old ones saw grim humor in the name, for Oklahoma was a Choctaw word meaning land of the red man. The seeds of frontier expansion have grown well in the soil of the red man's land. The Muskogee, the Creek Nation, has also survived and grown in the same soil. Our people's faces spring from the landscape of modern Oklahoma, generation after generation. We have refused to die. Now we seek to rediscover what the heart has lost to faithless centuries. We rebuild. We send our lifeblood, our children, to schools where they must learn, besides other things, how to live in the white man's world. Our children grew up. Many of them bridged the distance between the white man's culture and their own heritage. Some find careers in urban development, others in the business end of tribal affairs. Creeks are part of the growing industry in Oklahoma. Positions are open in medicine for those willing to work and study hard. High school athletic programs attract some of our young men. We would have honor in the world as men, yet still remain close to the traditions of our tribe. Stickball, an old Indian tradition, is shared by many tribes. For Creeks, it is still a ritual of deep meaning. Each player has a pair of ball sticks carved from hickory wood. Each is instructed to play fairly, with honor. The game begins when the leather ball is tossed between two opposing players. The Creek Council House was built in 1878 at Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Its native stone holds the echoes of a century's struggle. The proposal of Indian statehood, dissolution of the tribe.
Welcome you all here this afternoon to our quarterly council meeting. And we'll
Today, an elected chief again meets with the Creek Tribal Council. Quarterly meetings bring to light tribal concerns, employment, housing, education, federal payments for lost lands.
They'll try to work and correct these problems, and I've got a lot of confidence in this board, and the board is really the one that's responsible.
The Council House Square is a gathering place for our people during public ceremony. A parade passes by down Main Street with our chief leading in traditional dress. The flower of our young women follow, competing for the title of Creek Princess. In Creek communities, many of our people gather beneath the symbol first carried to us by De Soto. To them, the cross now means sustenance in trouble, community with each other. Creek pastors carry on the teachings of Callisto, Hisayija, son of the Great Spirit. Little country churches preserve an ideal of brotherhood between men, help erase the bitterness of repeated indignities. They have soothed the memories of our old people who still remember bad times on our long road home. In the churchyard, stone figures watch over sons and daughters of the Trail of Tears. Their journey ended, they sleep in meadow grass. Some are marked the old creek way with small houses to protect their sleep. They have a view of the hills where our people first settled in Oklahoma. Ritual grounds of the old Creek tribal towns nestle among the trees. Here, each midsummer, numbers of our people celebrate in the old way. The bushgita of the green corn lasts 1 week. It is the Creek Thanksgiving and New Year's. New arbors are built around each grounds. Modern implements recreate an ancient design. Sacred herbs consecrate the grounds anew. The medicine man then mixes them with water. The people wash themselves in it and drink to be purified. At the end of the week, we rekindle the sacred fire. Coals from the new fire are carried to the camps, where communal suppers are prepared. Creek women tie turtle shells filled with pebbles on their ankles for the ribbon dance. In late evening, men and women join in the great stomp dance of the bushgita, which will last until dawn. Ancient songs and battles flood the darkness. We who have refused to die, who have traded and fought with the white man, given our homelands for his civilization, still in our hearts, we are Muskogee, Creek. Our spirits rise to seek wide places before white man's time in the land, when his Ragadamisi created us from wind and earth. During green corn season, Creeks who live far from Oklahoma leave the white man's cities. To this circle beneath the trees we come. There is warmth in the old song. We are at peace. After the long spirit-haunted journey through tears, wars, lost homelands, we are home.